A Wet Day in Hell is a VR game that I created in my VR class along with a couple of other people. I was the producer, 3D modeler, animator, as well as game designer. I also had a level designer, programmer, sound designer, and a 2D artist. Now this game was made in 2.5 months, and it's a game that I actually enjoyed making. VR is something that nowadays you see more and more about. Personally, it's a growing thing that I find so much interest in, as I would like to do a lot of experimentation with it. But Wet Day in Hell was going to be something else initially. Initially, the code that we used was Cardboard Warfare, at which the original idea was a kind of Angry Birds game in a sense, to whereas you would be this guy and you'd have this neighbor that builds this giant box fort. You as the player has these kinds of weapons of like water balloons, squirt guns, etc., to try and knock down the fort. As you may or may not know, cardboard, when it gets wet, kind of breaks down. That was kind of the whole idea. However, we didn't know if that was going to be possible in this sense. So, talking with my teacher, who's the same teacher I had for Spittins, we came up with a new idea. We would still use the whole idea of throwing water balloons, but at a different target. We just decided that it would be a fun game to throw water balloons at children. And to make it justified, we had to make sure that the children were, like, demonic, in a sense. First, initially, I created quickly the spigots, taps, whatever you want to call them, as well as the water balloons so that we can start doing testing with throwing physics and other stuff. Then I started creating the children, which were very simple, as they kind of resembled the guards and scientists that I made for Tethered. So the idea is to survive. By survive, I mean take out a certain amount of enemies. So each level would have, you have to take out 150, 300, and etc. for each level. So once testing was done, I created different playground parts. So you have ramps, stairs, and then other different central parts that you can connect to each other. There were also ideas to create slides, fireman poles, and other kind of playground equipment for them to come at you with. But we never went farther into it, as it would take more time, and try to figure out how the kids would navigate them. I made sure that everybody stayed on task and that we had what we needed on specific days. So after a while of making and testing levels and all that, my teacher told me that I should try and use some different color other than the basic Lambert whatnot color for the kids of their skins. So I decided to make the kids' skins green, but also I added a 2D plane on their faces that conformed to their face. And then using my 2D pixel skills, I made these faces that were very, very good, I personally find. They were very spooky. Even one of our classmates who tested out the game kind of freaked out and threw the VR headset off as soon as they got close enough. But the idea of the game is to survive, as these kids will be coming at you in kind of waves format, and you have to hit them with the water balloons. Now the idea of the water balloons is that if you leave them on the tap long enough, they'll get bigger and bigger, which allows for a bigger splash and bigger area of effect. You also have the kids spawning at different rates, with the fat guys, unironically, running faster than any of the others. Within the last couple of weeks I started creating environmental stuff like benches, fountains, a bunch of other stuff to make the game feel less empty. So overall, I think this game was great, considering the team that I got to work with, and also lead as the producer. My programmer was the best that I could ever ask for, as, to be honest, my programming skills, as I said before, is really crappy. And this guy was able to give us everything that we asked for. As when he created the spawning stuff for the kids, we were able to adjust how many kids spawned at what time, how long were intervals, how fast they ran, etc., etc. It was amazing. Although I must admit the couple lacking stuff that we'd had was our 2D artist took a very, very, very long time in creating the kind of background that you see all around the 3 levels that we made, which I ended up taking the houses that he created and then just put them all together into one giant picture and then just put them on a long wall. But overall, I think this game actually turned out pretty well compared to how Tethered went. As it's actually fun, it's great, and it took a lot less time than it did for Tethered, even though Tethered was my capstone. Which I am a lot more happy with how this game turned out. Both with how it looks, how it feels, and it's just a lot more fun.